recently, it has been announced through certain leaks that have been made. I saw you post about this on Twitter as well, actually, that the RAF, the Royal Air Force, is seeming to pause job offers for white men as they try to meet impossible diversity targets. And if we go to the next link, we've got the article talking about it a little bit more. The head of RAF recruitment resigned in protest at an effective pause on offering jobs to white male recruits in favour of women and ethnic minorities, defence sources have claimed. The senior female officer apparently handed in her notice in recent days amid concerns that any such restrictions on hiring, however temporary and limited, could undermine the fighting strength of the Royal Air Force. I mean, that should be pretty obvious that something like that would happen. I mean, it's more than just the potential decrease in the skill of the fighting forces. At the end of the day, if generally speaking, English people defending England, English people historically are white. So if you're going to be aiming to get people who aren't white, you're going to be getting people from different cultural and ethnic and historical backgrounds, making me question, what connection do they have to this land if they're going to be protecting it? How far will they go to protect this place if it actually came to it? Let's be honest.
Yep. 2 quick points. The first point is well done to that female officer for resigning. That's what you call a patriot. She's given her job up and resigned and will take a financial hit now because she's decided this policy will damage the country she loves. That's what you call a patriot. And then we're trying to get more, anyone can apply to join the RAF. There is no colour bar. It is open as it possibly can be, but some people don't want to join. And there's many reasons why people don't want to join. So if we're looking at newly arrived immigrants and their children, let's be perfectly honest, they've already abandoned their country to come here. So patriotism and love of the country isn't a trait that's high up on their list because they've already proved that they hadn't for their own ancestral homelands. And that's not a criticism of them. I'm just saying it's a matter of fact. But what we're doing now is we're looking at what we can do to make the RAF represent the nation as a whole. Who cares? Do we look at a basketball team that's all black and do we say that doesn't represent the country as a whole? No, we don't, because what I want and what I've always wanted is the best person for the job.
Of course. Well, meritocracy, once again, is something that I think most people on some base level do aspire towards. They want to believe that the people who are in positions of importance or positions of power are the best for the job. And when it's meritocracy that leads to the diversity, so to speak, getting in those positions, then they're all for it. But as soon as it turns out maybe English people, white English people, are the ones most applying for positions where they are going to defend England, then all of a sudden it's a big problem.
And do we have a quota in the NHS for doctors? Because from what I remember, what I'm reading on medical doctors in the NHS, I think it's something like 48, 49% BAME, so black or Asian.
I would imagine a lot of that is, say, Indian people.
Yeah. And if you look at non-medical staff in the NHS, it's something like 55, 60%. So are we going to look at that and say to these people, you don't keep that job now because we now need to get a white person there? And we shouldn't do that because it's wrong, and it's wrong here. It's as you said, clown world.
Yeah.
Where does this stop?
I mean, with the NHS, I would question how those people got those jobs in the first place, given that every single trust in the UK for the NHS has a big diversity and diversity and equity department where the people are getting paid ridiculously exorbitant amounts so that they can go around all of the trusts and say not enough BAME, not enough black people, not enough brown people. So I'd be questioning how those people got those jobs.
But don't forget, the NHS has got vacancies and has done for 30 years in every single department in every single hospital. So it's not like they pushed black and Asian people into these roles and didn't take white people, because there's vacancies everywhere. They're crying out for more staff to come work for the NHS, but people don't want to because who wants to work for the NHS?
But yes, continuing on from this, so the person who came out and sort of blew the whistle on this said that the service was attempting to hit impossible diversity targets. The defence sources accused Air Chief Marshal Sir Mike Wigston, the head of the RAF, of appearing willing to compromise UK security at a time of growing threats from Russia and China in pursuit of albeit important goals such as the improving of diversity and inclusion. So Sky News, unsurprisingly, capitulating there, just going, well, you know, it might be compromising security, but we do need to admit that this is albeit very important stuff to make ourselves feel better through virtue signalling, the sorts of things that always ends well, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think Air Chief Marshal Sir Mike Wigston needs sacking.
I think a lot of people need sacking.
All these stories, when it comes to public services, we always have a go at the people who run these public services, and we have a go at the civil servants, and we have a go at the staff in there, and we have a go at their diversity departments. But who we always forget about is the government. They all work for the government.
Oh, I never forget that it's the government, I'll tell you that.
And we need to be saying to the government, this is wrong and we're sick of this. What are you doing at the wheel?
Well, would you like to hear about what the two potential leaders of the government have said about this? So, primarily, it was Rishi Sunak, a spokesperson for his campaign, said the only thing that should matter in recruitment is the content of your character, not your sex or the colour of your skin. That the Ministry of Defence would allow Britain's security to potentially be put at risk by a drive for so-called diversity is not only disgraceful, it is dangerous. And, you know, I think those are all very pretty words. I think those are fantastic rote talking points that he's bringing out there, but I don't believe that he's actually going to do anything about it.
If he was going to do something, the final line would have been, and if I become Prime Minister, I'll sack any head of department who promotes any of this stuff. In the Air Force, the Army, Civil Service, I'll sack them. That's how we should have ended it.
He's not going to do that, though, because as far as I consider it, the Conservatives in the Conservative Party, especially those in the leadership race, they when they're on the campaigns, when they're talking to the public, when they want you to vote for them, and that includes the Conservative Party members, they will talk like Conservatives, but they will rule like socialists.
Every politician always, no matter who the politician is, politicians always tell you what you want to hear.
Oh, yeah.
That's the job of a politician.
So, yeah, once again, I put no stock in any of the words that these people are putting out. And the RAF, to be fair, have disputed the allegations. They've said there's no pause in Royal Air Force recruitment and no new policy with regards to meeting in-year recruitment requirements. Royal Air Force commanders will not shy away from the challenges we face building a service that attracts and recruits talent from every part of the UK workforce. But then they carry on to say, as with the Royal Navy and British Army, we're doing everything we can to encourage recruiting from underrepresented groups and ensure we have a diverse workforce. So what they've said there is, we're not doing it, but also we are doing it. Yeah. We're not going to outright say, yes, we're preventing white people, but by focusing on recruiting from underrepresented groups, I feel like they're going to be neglecting other people who are going to be potentially employed. So
what I've read there really is, we have no official policy or emails on this, but I spoke into a couple of officers' ears and said, stop taking on white men because you're affecting our table of looking at diversity.
Yeah, of course.
And that's how things work in these big corporations. It's not always an official email with a government stamp on it.
It's an informal thing, isn't it?
Stop doing that, because at the end of the year, this isn't going to look good. Not going to look good for you. It won't look good for your career.
Yep. Always passing favours. Yeah. But yeah, so that's how that's going. And Admiral Sir Tony Radakin, head of the armed forces, used his first public speech in last December to stress the importance of striving for better diversity. So it's everywhere in this whole thing. He says, it was not about wokefulness, it's about woefulness. The woefulness of too few women, the woefulness of not reflecting the ethnic, religious, and cognitive diversity of our nation. And what an absolute joke to hear something like that. If I look at armed forces, and if I saw nothing but strong young white men, I wouldn't go, oh no, where's all the women? I would go, oh good, we're protected. That's what I would think, you know, as long as I know that these people have been put in those positions through merit, for instance.
When the war with China comes, and it will come, not Russia. Russia is a nobody. Russia's shown the world they're a nobody, apart from to their weak neighbours. But Russia's not a threat to the West. China. When the war comes with China, and we're sending our armed forces over there, and we've got 50% women, and we've got so many, BAME, and we've got so many black, we've got so many gays, and none of them can fight. And they're all crying because I broke my nail or I've tripped up. And am I allowed to shoot an enemy soldier who's black? Well, you can do, but that doesn't count on your score. In fact, don't kill too many, because you can't be killing black soldiers who are enemies. You've got to be killing only white ones.
I'd be surprised if China was recruiting black soldiers.
They're taking over most of Africa.
No, that's true.
And when the war comes, you never know. But I mean, when war comes, you need an army with so many psychopaths in it and so many highly trained soldiers. And it doesn't matter who they are, because that's how you win a war.
Well, I'm not so sure that war with China would necessarily be coming, especially after Josh and I have been covering a bit recently in like contemplations and other such things we've been doing, talking about the disastrous state of China's economy. More than anything, the question would be for me whether China could even afford to really go to war.
And that's why they'll go to war. Because if their economy is crumbling, then they're looking at civil unrest. China has had a lot of civil unrest over the centuries and millennia. And what every dictator does to keep power is you need an enemy. You need to invade somewhere else. You need your population focused on someone else. Because if they're not, they're focused on me.
Well, that is all true, but I just don't know whether if China did attempt to make any massive moves like that, especially towards the West, I don't know if their infrastructure would be able to handle it, or if it would just
not at the moment. It'd be salami tactics. First of all, they'll take Taiwan, then they'll take Vietnam, then they might take Japan, and they'll take some. But eventually, they'll run out of Asia. Then they'll be strong. They'll have natural resources. They'll have a bigger army. Where are they going to look then? Don't forget, China was humiliated by the West, especially the British, for centuries. We imported, we made most of their we made a lot of their population heroin addicts, so the British Empire could make money on it. They've been humiliated, and that's in their history. And I think if they do slimy tactics and get to that stage, there's only one way to go, and it's always west.
Well, potentially.